Hello, welcome. I normally wouldn't do so many videos so close together, but I just got fired, so I have a lot of time on my hands. Today we're going to be reviewing Jordan Peterson's What Every Young Woman Needs to See, or What Every Young Woman Should Know. Basically, it's kind of pressuring Western women and, so-called smart women that they should really think about getting married and having a family a lot earlier, or even kind of above all else in life, because that's our duty to bear children, as if it's not what young females already knew and what we've been told with subliminal messaging our entire lives and by friends and family and whatnot. I saw this a few years ago, back when I had little crush on Dr. Peterson, who doesn't love a silver fox, but I kind of put it out of my mind for a long time, and then I got in a series of fights with my mother about not getting married and starting a family, basically starting a family because she wanted grandkids. I had been broken up with my ex for a while, and she's gotten nosy about it and stalked him on Facebook and said, "Oh, hey, look, he's married now. How do you feel about that?" And just like nudging here and there. So instead of airing that out, instead I'm going to respond to this video, peddling some pretty basic conservative beliefs, but justifying it with, I don't know, psychology and literature, kind of? I don't know. It's Jordan Peterson. We're all used to this by now. So here's the tea. It's way too hot right now.
And then this, so that's the positive feminine on the left.
So we start off our adventure, a picture of a Medusa's head and a sculpture of a clitoris that's supposed to look like the Virgin Mary. Yeah, if that's not creepy, I don't know what is. But instead of stopping it here and just discrediting everything he's about to say, let's listen to what he actually has to say.
They're Egyptian statues, precursors to the Christian iconography.
Yeah, he's really into the Christian iconography. That is true.
Well, this image has to be held up as transcendent, and by that I mean it's an image that's got to be at the basis of a value structure that actually works insofar as there's going to be human beings, because there aren't any human beings without the infant and the mother. And so if that's not held up as an image of ultimate value, then everything falls apart.
If that's not held up as an image of value, then everything falls apart, because if we don't have mothers and we don't have babies, then we don't have a civilization. Yeah, and contextually, back in biblical ages, they told people to be fruitful and multiply because there just weren't that many people back then.
I had a client recently admit to me in ashamed tones that she wanted to have children. I said, well, you don't have to be ashamed of that, especially not if you're talking to me. And she said, oh, that's such a relief, because I can't talk to anyone about it at work. They seem to think that it's, degrading.
Yeah, what he's doing here is really questionable as a psychologist. Is he's using information from his clients that was supposed to be confidential to make some half-assed point about the regrets of women. And he does this several times. He groups them into certain groups and says, oh yeah, lawyer women are so successful and they have a lot of dating options, but they just let the time get away from them, and then they regret, not having children or starting too late to start a family. But this idea that there were any circle where a woman would be ashamed to admit that she wanted to have children, I don't think I've ever heard of that before. And he has no context, like what kind of circle was this, what kind of friends did she have, or what kind of job. But it's kind of like, I don't know, I guess if you move up the ladder, then it's not as accepted if you decide to stop and have children. But I mean, I think we're kind of more accepting of that. I mean, is it just me? Am I crazy? Am I not a hardcore enough career woman to reach that level of sexism?
Hardly diagnose a culture as more pathological than that.
Okay, so you have to remember that this guy is a professor. If he wanted to conduct serious studies and get them peer-reviewed, he could, but he's too lazy. So he'd rather just diagnose the entire Western culture or whatever based on, I don't know, maybe 4 max women that he, talked to or was, they were his clients and they were all ashamed to admit that they wanted children or something like that. Like that's the kind of subtly slimy thing about Jordan Peterson is, to just sit there or stand there and lecture and have the videos available for people to watch. That's nice because it's reaching more people who normally wouldn't get a chance to watch them. But at the same time, drawing these broad assumptions about a culture when you yourself could look at studies or could conduct them, it's lazy.
Badly for young women because they're not guided through this with any sense whatsoever. And I'll tell you what my experience has been working with women. And
he feels bad for young women because they're not guided through the process of prioritizing children over a career or finding some kind of balance. Okay, well, all right, Father Peterson, well, you're gonna really tell us what's up and what to do about it, right? He's not.
And I'll tell you what my experience has been working with women, and you can take this for what it's worth.
Yes, I'll take it for what it's worth, which is not much because it's unsubstantiated research.
And I've worked with women who've achieved the highest levels of their profession. I don't mean just in academia, but in a number of different fields. This is what happens. We'll take the typical woman, conservative woman, because they're more typical, conscientious, not particularly open. So they're dutiful people, they're existing within the structures of their society. So
the typical conscientious conservative woman at the top of her career field. And he means conservative as in, I don't know, not the political ideology, but the other one, like really careful with everything, conserving water, like that kind of conservative. Which, by the way, I've noticed that the more conservative states sometimes are usually where there's not enough rain. Makes you think.
So I'll take female lawyers as a classic example. So they're very good at high school, very hardworking, very intelligent, but very dutiful and often rather agreeable. And
they're dutiful, they're hardworking, and they follow all the rules, except for finding out what they really want, which apparently is having children. But they didn't know.
They're very good at high school, very hardworking, very intelligent, but very dutiful and often rather agreeable. And
see, Jordan Peterson likes to be the speaker for all intelligent people. Maybe in part that he has an ability to reach young people that, such as myself during my, time period of figuring out who I was, to be able to watch these videos on YouTube. But I can kind of see where he's going with this because, if you look at, population statistics with IQ, the more we have, birth control and the more we have like an accepting sex positive liberal atmosphere, the IQ goes down because intelligent women are a lot better at using birth control and making sure that it works correctly. So we get a dip in IQ, a reduction in intelligent generations, because intelligent women are like, why would I want to do that? That's not a good deal for me.
But very dutiful and often rather agreeable. And that's important because it means to some degree that they want to please and they'll do what they're told. And
so they're conservative with their resources. They're willing to please and they do what they're told, which means they would make great housewives, except that they're already doing this lawyery thing called being a lawyer.
Borderline student, and you're also a bit rebellious and antisocial. I'm going to fail you. Like you're right on the cusp. Don't like you much. You fail.
Okay, so now he's admitting to, maybe not directly, but possibly grading people based on how much he likes them.
Their women are very good in high school, then they go to college, they're very good in college. They nail their damn grades, they do their studying, they get their A's, and they ace their LSATs, so they're smart too.
It's almost like, oh shit, now that women are in school, they're out competing men. And then while they're out competing men, they're getting into really good careers. And then who the hell is supposed to birth all of the children and take care of the house? It's like, oh damn, just because women could be good at this doesn't mean they should.
What happens to the women when they're in their 30s? They all leave the high-end law firms. Why? Because who in their right mind would want to live like that?
All of these women in these high-end law firms, they all leave at exactly 30 because, well, it's a sucky job. Who would want to live that way? Probably has nothing to do with societal pressure to settle down and have children. Okay, well then why don't all men do that at 30? I mean, I'm sure some do, some give up, obviously.
That's the issue, right? Once you make about $60,000 a year for your family, but let's say for you personally, additional income has zero impact on your quality of life.
I don't know what kind of fallacy this is, or what it's called, in debate terms, but basically he's saying women, when they turn 30, they quit their careers because who would want to do that? And then he goes on to say that the extra income doesn't really even make a difference. So it doesn't matter. As if women aren't ambitious. At least the ones that he's talking about aren't ambitious and don't want, power and, having great careers and delegating and all of that. He kind of talks about them like, yeah, they're intelligent and they're dutiful and everything, but if only they just knew this one secret, But he could say the same thing for men. Like, why would any man want to succeed past $60,000 a year? Why would anyone want to?
Zero. So why work 80 hours a week? Well, men will do it, some men.
Yeah, why would anyone want to be super successful? He kind of made the case that nobody should try to do that, which is kind of communist of him, but that's not the point he's trying to make, is it?
A handful of hyper-competitive men who are obsessed with hitting the pinnacle of the given dominance hierarchy they're in will happily work 80 hours a week, and they'll forego everything else.
Yeah, and no woman would ever want that. They don't want dominance hierarchies. Women aren't dominant. They're agreeable. Especially this small percentage of women who are lawyers. Super agreeable and don't care about being dominant still, just because they're female.
So the women hit that at 30 and they're completely qualified, and the law firms are bloody desperate to keep them.
Yes, thank you for that little, bone that you threw, that actually, yes, they do have value as a lawyer, even though they're a woman.
The women think, why in the world am I doing this? Why in the world would anyone in their right mind do this? Especially because they're often married by that point too, and generally they've married a husband who makes as much money or more than them. So they don't need the damn money. And so they think, well, there's more to life than this, which is exactly the right thing to think.
Yeah, that's a good point, because a woman of such value would not be single for long. She would have a husband or something. But wow, Peterson, thank you. I'm just gonna find some random dude and get married now, because 5 years isn't long at all, and I do not want to have any more regrets.